Welcome back to the KCC. This is Kenny's Chelsea channel, and today we're going to be getting into all things Chelsea's January transfer window strategy. So, there's a lot of talk around incoming transfers and outgoing transfers at Chelsea Football Club right now in the January transfer window. I know a lot of us probably expected it to be a quiet window after so many busy transfer windows under this new management, under the new ownership. The Blue Co, Clear Lake Capital, led by Todd Bowley and Begdadik Bali. Seems like every single transfer window is like a circus. It's just all this crazy noise and attention surrounding Chelsea. I think it's safe to say maybe we've been trophyless now for the last couple years. But if there's anything that we deserve, it's a trophy for transfer windows. We have been the absolute owners of the transfer windows for the past couple of seasons now. But I will say, with all that being said, with all this negotiations and business going down and all these crazy things, we're still not fully set up yet. And that is why in this edition of the January transfer window, we are still continuing to go back into the market, trying to get those last pieces of the puzzle, which at this point is starting to make me think, are we ever going to have a complete puzzle? I don't think so. Seems like every single transfer window, there's going to be some players going out and some coming in. And I think that is normal. It would be extremely rare to have the team fully set up where you don't see a single player leave or a single player come in. But it's more normal to see maybe one or two pieces come in to kind of give you that extra squad depth or to make that big difference in a side that's lacking, whether it's because of an injury or just because you thought you had it all figured out before the season began and now you're halfway through the season and you figure out, oh my goodness, actually, we really do need a striker. We really do need a center back. I really do need this. I really do need that. So, really quick, guys, before we get too deep into this video, I will say, if you guys are viewers of this channel and you guys are not yet subscribed, I would very much appreciate it if you guys would hit subscribe onto the channel, hit a like on this video, and please, please, please leave a comment down below. Let's get a conversation started and grow this community. All right, so back to today's video. Chelsea's transfer strategy, because I would like to think Chelsea has a transfer strategy, but with all the craziness that's been going on for the last couple years, it's kind of hard to believe that there is one, to understand that there is some sort of foresight and some sort of a future 5-10 year plan behind all of this, and it's not just a lot of opportunism going on, getting this guy because he's cheap in this moment and maybe I can sell him at a higher fee in a year or even in 6 months in the case of some of these players we're going to be getting into today. So first, what I want to do is I want to go through the full team sheets of the current squad that Chelsea has right now. So first and foremost, I'm going to start off with the goalkeepers. Goalkeepers here at Chelsea Football Club have been a huge topic of discussion now for the last few years. Of course, we had Petr Cech back in the early 2000s, probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, keeper the Premier League has ever seen. Had the highest save percentage in the league's history while he was playing for Chelsea. And then we had him, his successor was none other than probably the current best goalkeeper in the world, Thibaut Courtois, who was in between the sticks for the Blues for a few seasons to follow before forcing his way out to Real Madrid. And then after that, we had the likes of Kepa Arrizabalaga, who we had very small successes with. He did help us win the Europa League. But Kepa wasn't really that world-class keeper, even though he was the most expensive goalkeeper at that time, and to this day still is the most expensive goalkeeper in football history. Did not live up to that reputation. Then we did have the likes of Edouard Mendy in that magical season where he helped us win the UEFA Champions League in 2021. The Champions League side with the least amount of goals conceded in the tournament, only conceding 4 goals. amazing performances by Mendy, but by the next season, we got to see that his mistakes with the ball at his feet were costing us a lot more than his amazing acrobatic saves were helping us. And eventually, we ended up with Robert Sanchez, who had dropped down the pecking order to third choice keeper at Brighton before we signed him. And he is currently our number one. And I will say I have mixed feelings about Robert Sanchez. Similar to Eduard Mendy, I would say he struggles with the ball at his feet in certain times. Seems to get kind of shaky, kind of nervous on the ball. You can tell he's just not fully confident in himself with the ball at his feet, which under Enzo Maresca and the system that we play, it seems like it's going to be very important going forward to have a goalkeeper that is comfortable with the ball at his feet and playing out from the back, which is why we brought in Philip Jorgensen in the summer, who is currently our number two. And since his start to life at Chelsea, has not really been making the strongest case to be promoted to number one. You know, some people will say there are shouts for him to be contending for number one over Robert Sanchez. I would definitely say that. They are pretty similar in levels right now, but I wouldn't say that Jorgensen is levels above Robert Sanchez or fully deserves to be over Robert Sanchez. But in my opinion, honestly, I don't think either one are good enough to be Chelsea's number one if we really are trying to achieve the goals of not just getting back in the Champions League, but winning Champions Leagues and winning Premier League titles and winning domestic cup titles like the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. I just don't think these are the type of goalkeepers that are going to help us get there. But I also believe that we're going to have to stick with these guys for the remainder of the season because I just don't see any other goalkeepers out there in the market at this time that are going to be able to really be that, help us step above the current level that we're at in terms of goalkeepers. And then, of course, we have Marcus Bettinelli, the vibes man. He's never really going to be getting any minutes. He's just there to help, with the competition around the club when it comes to goalkeeper training. And from what I've heard and seen, he just kind of seems to be that vibes man. One of the funniest guys in the dressing room, kind of helps the team stick together. Kind of a behind the scenes type of guy. And then we still have Lucas Bergstrom kicking around in the first team, which for him, I would say definitely in the January transfer window, try to find him a domestic loan, whether that's to a championship club or a League One club. Just get him out of there, get him some more minutes. Try to get his transfer value up because right now, just playing no minutes is not going to help us. It's not going to help him for his development and for his career or his future. So get that guy out on loan and, let's keep it moving. But that's my final verdict on goalkeepers. I don't think there's anything out there for us right now, so we're just going to have to stick by what we have and try to see if we can further develop them. And hopefully by next season, we'll have a better idea if we need to bring in a world-class goalkeeper, which is what I think is the best idea. But we just have so many goalkeepers at the club currently that it would be very difficult to move all of them on. We still have Georgi Petrovic out on loan at Strasbourg. We have Gabriel Slonina, who was a highly touted American goalkeeper from no, he was in the MLS, I believe. I don't know why I was thinking he was in Spain. I think it was just because he was drawing a lot of interest from Real Madrid at the time that we signed him. But we ended up snatching up his signature, and he just came back from his loan spell. I think he broke up his pinky finger or something like that, and he's recovering. So definitely don't expect to see any of him in the Chelsea side. Maybe he goes out on another loan, or maybe he just recovers for the second half of the season, and we send him back out on loan or reassess him in the preseason for next year. But let's move on from goalkeepers and move on to defenders. These are the defenders that we have on the books right now. So starting off with Axel Disasi. As you guys know, after that last terrible performance from him, I do not want to see this guy at the club any longer. I really don't believe he is Chelsea level in any way, shape, or form. He does seem to be drawing a lot of interest from clubs abroad, not just in England. I think there's reports of West Ham being interested in him, but also across Italy and in different leagues, even back in France. So hopefully we can move him on a straight permanent sale. Definitely no loan or nothing like that. So I would hope to see Axel Disasi get moved on, even if we make a small loss on him financially, I feel like it'll be a huge gain for us, and in the sense that we'll clear up some cap space in the sense of getting him off the books on our wage bill, and then also being able to kind of have an easier outlook on reassessing to bring in a center back option. So when it comes to center back options, well, let's get into incoming transfers. Let me just go through the squad right now, real quick. So next on the list, we have Mark Cucurella. His left back position seems to be solidified. He's really had a revelation since over the summer and even the ending of last season. Going into the summer, being a very important piece of the puzzle for Spain to win the Euros, and now even here at Chelsea, working in that inverted role, overlapping, just kind of doing whatever Enzo Maresca asks. He's been doing pretty good. I did criticize him a bit in our last Premier League matches, or the last couple ones, since he came back from his red card suspension. But Marco Correa has definitely cemented himself as our first choice left back. There's been reports of like trying to get Alfonso Davies here on a free transfer, but I just don't see Chelsea making those type of high profile signings right now at this time, sadly, unless we can at least qualify for Champions League 100%. But with our recent performances and the performances of the other teams around us, below us on the table currently, that are so hot on form, that's looking more and more difficult every single day. So that's going to play a huge factor into bringing new faces to the club. So moving on, we have Tosin Adarabioyo. He came on a free transfer. I think he's been excellent cover for Wesley Fofana since he's been out injured. Of course, there's a lot of questions about Wesley Fofana's future, with Enzo Maresca claiming that he could be out for the rest of the season. And I think that was more so depending on if he elects to get a surgery on his hamstring injury, because then Wesley Fofana came out just a couple days afterwards saying, hey, I might be back in like 4 or 5 weeks. So even if he is back in 4 or 5 weeks, it's still going to take him a while to get back to his best. We probably won't see the best of him before the end of the season. So I'm liking Tosin as cover right now, but with Wesley Fofana on the side, he just has so much more pace that he's able to help us play with that Enzo Maresca vision of playing with a high line, which I think is what has been affecting our defense the most recently, is that we just don't have as much pace getting back on transitions, because Tosin is definitely not the fastest guy out there. So I will say, I do like Tosin. I really do like him, but we did get him on a free. That was definitely more of a business decision than a sporting decision. So if we're able to make a sale for him this winter, I think we should go for it, because there are some pretty good, solid center back options out there on the market that I do feel we could bring in. So if we make the sales of, let's say, Disasi and Tosin, which Tosin's going to be pure profit because we brought him in on a free transfer, I think overall that's really going to help the squad moving forward if we can bring in a solid replacement. So I will say, if the opportunity arises to sell Tosin at a fair price, we should definitely go for that. Moving on, we have Benoit Badiashile, who is also out injured alongside Wesley Fofana. I do believe he is expected to come back sooner than Wesley Fofana, but also it's kind of the same story with Badiashile. I still have the memories of when he first came in 2 seasons ago in that January transfer window, and he looked extremely solid. He seemed to be, a lot stronger than Kalidou Koulibaly, because he started the season off very rough, and then Badiashile came in. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air. Seemed like we kind of found that diamond in the rough with Badiashile. At least that's how I felt. And then since those first 6 months at the club last season, we didn't really see that same old Badiashile. I think after his injury, I don't remember exactly what it was, if it was a knee injury or an ankle injury that he picked up, but definitely after that injury, when he came back to the side, it's never really been the same Badiashile that we first saw. So I know he's out injured right now. He's probably going to be out injured maybe for the rest of the month. I don't know. I kind of hope not, because same thing, I do like him as a backup to Levi Colwell, because really that's the only option we have right now. But I do think we could do better. I really don't want to make too many changes to the squad right now and bring in too many fresh faces. But I will say, just for the overall betterment of the club, for the long journey, really looking forward with foresight, I really think that if we have the opportunity to move Badiashile on, I think it would be a smart decision. And he has drawn up a lot of interest from Italy, especially. I know Milan has been tracking him for years. I believe Inter Milan as well. We're tracking him for a while. Juventus might even be interested in him right now. I heard they've been looking for some center backs to bring into their squad. I mean, they even have, we'll get into that in a second, but Juventus even has Renato Vega shortlisted. So someone like Badia Shield might be another profile that they could be interested in. So if we could move on Badia Shield and maybe bring in another left-footed center back as a backup to Levi Colwell, I think that would be a good idea. Next on the list is him, Levi Colwell, the Cobham graduate. Won't say too much on him. I think he's been having an excellent season so far. Even as young as he is, he's kind of had to be that leader in the center back position because Wesley Fofana has been out so much, and then Tosin is a fresh face in the squad, even though he's a little bit older, a little bit more senior. I think Levi Colwell has kind of had to play more of that leadership role. So he's definitely got that spot cemented in the squad. So we move on now to Ben Chilwell, Mr. Chilly. He's not drawing too much interest in the transfer market, and I fully understand why. He has been extremely injury prone, very similar to Reece James, but let's face it, he's never had the qualities of Reece James. Ben Chilwell on his day was a proper left back, proper left wing back, and I feel like a lot of teams could benefit from having him in their side. But with the wages he's on, and he's already stated that he's not looking to drop his wages, which is going to be impossible because he's on like 200 grand a week. I don't see any club other than someone like Manchester United paying for that right now. And seems like Manchester United isn't really drawing up any interest in him, even though to me that move is kind of sounds like the move that makes the most sense for all parties involved. But it doesn't seem like they're really biting the bait. So I don't know. We might have to hold on to Chile for a while. I hope that maybe we can reintroduce him to the squad somehow and kind of use him in some sort of way because it looks like it's getting more and more difficult to move him on. And I don't want him just rotting away at the club, earning these big wages and not even getting any minutes. So that's a very touchy, difficult situation that we're going to have to see how the board handles that. Hopefully we can figure something out there. So next on the list, we have the captain, Reece James, praying that he can come back stronger than ever and stay fit for the remainder of the season. That is all I ask for. Reece James, we know you have immense qualities. We know how great you are. We know how great you can be and can become as the future captain for the present and the future of Chelsea Football Club. But we just pray all together. Please, Reece James, stay fit. We need you. We need you in this side, especially right now where Malo Gusto has not been performing as well as we know he could. So Reece James, please stay fit, but I do not have any intentions. I will never say in my life sell this guy. As much as he has been so injury prone, we have to keep this guy around. I mean, he bleeds blue. He is Chelsea through and through. We have to keep Reece James here at the club. So now we move on to his backup, Malo Gusto, who has not been performing too well recently, but I still have a lot of belief in this guy. I mean, when he came in to fill in for Reece James last season under Mauricio Pochettino, playing in a very traditional right back role, he did an excellent job. It seems like this season under Enzo Maresca, he has been struggling a bit to kind of find that same form. I think it could be maybe the overcomplicated tactics a bit, or just the profile and the roles that Enzo Maresca's kind of trying to fit him into. He has to be almost like a right wing back, traditional right back, going up and down that field on that right side, putting balls into the box with his crossing abilities, defending wingers out wide 1v1. That's really where Malo Gusto can thrive and can shine at this club, but it doesn't seem to be Enzo Maresca's vision currently. But I still do believe we have to keep him at the club. He's got a huge amount of potential. I have heard that there's interest from Liverpool for Malo Gusto to bring him in as Trent Alexander-Arnold's successor, as it looks more and more imminent that Trent is going to move on to Real Madrid on a free transfer over the summer as his contract is running up. I would hate to see someone like Malo Gusto switch to such a big rival like Liverpool because you just know he's going to cook over there. So I really do hope that we can keep him here. Next on the list, Wesley Fofana. Extremely injury prone. I would say let's still keep him in the meantime just because I know his transfer value must be pretty low right now. I know there was those talks over the summer where he was saying that he would be happy to go to Marseille, as I guess that's the city he was from in France, and he would be happy to go play for Marseille. But is Marseille really going to pay the price that we deserve for Wesley Fofana? Because he was the most expensive, or I think one of the most expensive defenders at the time when we signed him for like 70 odd million from Leicester City a couple years back. And ever since then, it's been impossible for him to stay fit a full season. He just seems to be an injury prone player. He was injury prone already before we signed him, which was kind of a red flag already in itself. But like a lot of the signings we've made, we signed him mostly based on potential and what he can become. But that's always the biggest underlying factor that you can never really fully predict with a player is the player could have all the potential in the world, but if injuries start slowing down his progress, slowing down his development, that can really derail a player's career. And that kind of seems to be what's happening with Wesley Fofana right now. He had a great start to the season. Him and Levi Colwill were really starting to make a strong partnership. And as strong as it was, I wouldn't say he was perfect. I wouldn't say he was excellent. I would say he was very good alongside Levi Colwill. And that's why I would still be very happy, especially with if we move on with Desassi and Tosin, to bring in a new center back. Sorry about that. To bring in a new center back, I would be extremely okay with that because Wesley Fofana is a player that I do really like. I just don't see him being the long-term solution for us here at Chelsea Football Club if he continues to get injured the way he has. Next on the list, we have another academy graduate, just fresh this season, Josh Achiampong. I'm very happy with him. We have to keep him around. I would hate to see him go out on loan, and I would definitely hate to see him get sold. So let's keep Josh Achiampong at the club. Let's give him some more minutes. If we're going to be bringing in any new center backs, then yes, that's going to limit his minutes. But let's play him in these cup games. Let's play him in every single conference league minute available. And let's try to develop him as much as possible because this kid looks like he could be the future of Chelsea Football Club, whether it's in that right center back position or even in the right back position, maybe even as a backup to Reece James. So definitely let's keep Josh Achimpong. Next on the list, we have Renato Vega. I really like this guy. There's been links with the move away for him. We obviously bought him from FC Basel very cheap over the summer. So that's another thing where I could see maybe Chelsea trying to go in and sell him, make a profit on this sale. But if we do that, who's going to be our backup at left back for Marco Correa? Who out there on the market can we bring in? I haven't really seen any links to left backs for Chelsea right now in this window. So I just don't think selling or loaning Renato Vega at this point makes a lot of sense. I would say keep him at the club. I'm sure maybe with his popularity growing, he's been starting, I think, every game for Portugal since he signed for Chelsea. So his popularity is definitely growing. The kid has massive potential, but we have to keep him around. We can't sell him, and I don't see any point in loaning him out either. Keep him here, you know, keep developing him in training, keep giving him Conference League minutes, give him cup minutes in the FA Cup, and, just use him as a backup to Cucurella because I just don't think we have many options right now in that position. And then last on the list, just came back from loan from Boca Juniors, Aaron Anselmino. There's a lot of hype around this kid, and honestly, I feel like very similar to Wesley Fofana even before we signed him. Sorry there, I just had to take a sip of my water. Even before we signed him for Boca Juniors over the summer, he has been an injury-prone player. I believe he spent most of this season while he was at Boca Juniors injured already. I thought he was injured currently, but it seems like he's fit now that he came back from loan at Boca Juniors to move here permanently. So I don't expect to see too much of this kid. Maybe we see him in the FA Cup. Maybe we see a little bit of him in the Conference League. But I do think we're going to sign another center back in this window. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go out on loan, or if he does stick around just to kind of get acclimated to life here in England and London and get to know the players and the tactics a bit more. He's probably just going to be riding the bench for the remainder of the season, and then we'll have to reassess him in preseason next year. All right, so I feel like I spent a lot of time there on defenders. Let's move on to midfielders. I mean, we do have a ton of defenders. we are a little skim on midfielders, and we'll go through this list, and it looks like a lot of these guys might be leaving soon. So, first on the list, Enzo Fernandez. Not going to spend too much time on that. Must keep Enzo Fernandez. No doubts about that. Next on the list, Carney Chukwuemeka. Poor guy. He has been riddled with injuries since coming to Chelsea. I remember last season when Pochettino was kind of building the squad around Nkunku. Then Nkunku gets injured in that last preseason match against Borussia Dortmund, playing on that shitty field. I don't even know why we were playing that preseason match at all, but we lose him on a contact injury. I think it was kind of half-half. It was mixed. It was, mixed with a contact injury and playing on that field because the grass just looked absolutely terrible. And then we lose Nkunku. Pochettino seems kind of confused. He doesn't know what to do. So he brings in Carney Chukwuemeka to replace Nkunku in that number 10 role that he was kind of designing the squad around. And then Chukwuemeka scores that wonder goal against West Ham in the first half, I believe in match day 2 of the Premier League season. In the first half. And then I believe it's early on in the second half, he injures his knee. I don't remember if it was a torn ACL or what it was, but that kept him out for just about the rest of the season. He came on. He came back late in the season and he scored that other wonder goal from the beautiful backheel assist from Cole Palmer against Enzo Maresca's Leicester City in the FA Cup, was it? I don't remember exactly, but I think that's the only other thing I remember from Chukwuemeka last season, aside from that goal against West Ham early in the season. So, Chukwuemeka, Chelsea are demanding his full £40 million release clause in order to sell him on a permanent sale. I think they're a little crazy asking that much for a guy that has played, I think, less than 200 minutes this season, and all of those minutes coming from the Conference League, no Premier League minutes at all. I'm sure he's still going to draw up a lot of interest because the kid's got massive potential. He's got good size. I believe he's like 6 foot or 6'1". So the kid's definitely going to draw a lot of potential, but I just don't think it makes much sense to sell him at this point. Chukwuemeka is someone that we should loan. Hopefully he does well out on loan and he can kind of draw his transfer value back up as he gets more consistent minutes. People around Europe can kind of see what he's capable of once again, and then in the summer, potentially move him on permanently if we see that that's the smartest option. Next on the list, we have Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, KDH. Came in the summer from Leicester City. Could have been potentially part of a deal for us to get Enzo Maresca. Looks like that was more of, once again, a business decision rather than a sporting decision to bring in KDH to the club. He has not really been gelling too well with the squad, it seems like. Hasn't really been playing to his full potential. I do still think he's a very good player, and there's a good player in him. It just doesn't seem like it's going to work out for him here at Chelsea. So, after only 6 months at the club, he's already being linked with moves away. And I think it would be the smartest thing right now to try to get rid of him as soon as possible, while people still have those fresh thoughts of him in their mind of being that championship team of the season player. Because right now, KDH, we can still potentially get maybe 30 odd million for him. And if that's something we can do, let's pounce on that right away because it really doesn't seem like he's going to fit into the squad. So if we can move him on this January window, I would be all over it. I'd rip somebody's hand off for 30 million, 25 million to take KDH away. Take that all day long. Next on the list, we have Moises Caicedo. Once again, similar to Enzo, keep him at all costs. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. Next on the list, we have Cesare Casade, who is gaining a lot of interest from his home country of Italy. There was wide reports of him going to Torino, but it seems like Torino was being very cheap. They were offering like 12 million and didn't really have the best package for the sale that we were looking for. We're looking more for closer to 20 million with a buyback clause. I think it'd probably be more intelligent for us to put a sell on clause rather than a buyback clause, especially if he's going to a smaller club like Torino. But it seems like they might have backed out of the deal due to financial reasons. And now Antonio Conte over at Napoli, who are currently in a title race over in Italy, wants Cesare Casade at the club. So That means someone like Napoli, they're definitely going to have a lot more money, so we could possibly get closer to the figure we're looking for and work out better terms for that deal. So hopefully that can work out and we can move on to Cesare Cassidy because he does not seem to be the best fit for us right now. He's been, starting most of the Conference League matches in the group stage, but he has not been getting any minutes in the Premier League. And that's what we need right now. As you can see, our midfield list, it's very skim when it comes to midfielders. And right now, Enzo and Caicedo, with Lavia out injured, are having to play week in, week out, all 90 minutes. And we just can't keep that going at this rate. So hopefully we can sell Cassidy and bring in a midfielder, which I will get into later when I talk about incomings to the club. And I really don't believe that for incomings, we're going to have to go out into the transfer market and buy a new midfielder. I think we have enough midfielders out on loan where we can bring in one or maybe even two midfielders that are out on loan currently to fill in the squad and really help us push in the second half of the season. Next on the list, Omari Kellyman. Loan him, sell him, freaking do whatever you want with that guy. I could care less. Romeo Lavia, currently out injured, looks like he's nearing a return. We definitely need to keep Romeo Lavia at all costs. So please, let's get Lavia fit and healthy and back into the squad because he definitely seems to be very helpful, very smart player, understands Enzo Maresca's system very well. I think he could really be a huge help for us in this second half of the season if we can keep him fit. But his story at Chelsea so far is that he struggles to stay fit, so that might be the biggest question mark around him. All right, and then I have Neto here, but we're going to move on to forwards. So Pedro Neto, we just brought him over the summer from Wolves for about 60 odd million. So definitely keeping him. Misha Mudrik, he's currently suspended with that failed performance enhancing drug test. Still waiting to hear back from the results for sample B. So even if we wanted to move him on, I don't see any team wanting to take that gamble on him at this moment. So it looks like we're going to be stuck with him for the near future. Hopefully everything turns out all right. But in the meantime, we're definitely going to need some more cover on that left wing. Next on the list, we have Noni Madueke, our right wing option, currently starting behind Pedro Neto. Pedro Neto and Noni have been back and forth in that starting right wing position in the Premier League. Noni started the season off strong, but he has had some issues with Enzo Maresca since with his levels in training and attitude issues, it seems like. I do see with the arrival of Esteval Willian in the summer, I do think, even though I really do like Noni, I do think he's going to be the one sacrificed and sold in the summer. I don't see him leaving this winter. It just wouldn't make any sense for that to happen. But I could see Noni Madueke moving on in the summer to make space for Esteval, and then us keeping Esteval Willian and Pedro Neto as right wing options. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what I see when I look into the crystal ball. Moving on to Joao Felix, we brought him from Atletico Madrid in that crazy transfer saga where we moved Gallagher to Atletico Madrid and got Joao Felix in return. He has not been getting many minutes. It seems like Enzo Maresca doesn't really seem to fancy Joao Felix. I still believe in him. I'm a believer. I think that he can still prove himself at this club. He has seemed to have been very, working very hard since he's moved here. I do hope to see more of him in the second half of the season because he can kind of fill in a lot of different roles, whether it's playing that number 10 position. That's obviously Cole Palmer's at the minute. Fill in maybe in that left wing role. I think that's going to be probably his best option, kind of swapping in and out with Jadon Sancho over at left wing. And then, of course, he can play sort of a center forward, false nine position, maybe as a backup to Nico, but I really don't think that's going to suit him too well in the Premier League. So I think left wing is probably going to be the best option, but I do hope we keep Joao Felix for the foreseeable future. He's still young. He's got a ton of potential and just a very exciting player. I think he can be very helpful to us. Next on the list, we have Nico Jackson. Of course, we have to keep him. No discussions about that. He's our starting striker. If we have to bring in another striker, we'll definitely get into that later in the video. But no questions about it. We're keeping Nico Jackson. But now on to our supposed backup number 9 so far this season. Christopher Nkunku has been drawing interest from a couple different clubs. I just saw reports today that PSG are not interested in Nkunku, with them trying to move on Kolo Muani, I think it would make a lot of sense for Paris Saint Germain to go in for Nkunku. I think he has a profile that would definitely suit Ligue 1 in France very well. And not only that, but also the system that Luis Enrique likes to play. I think someone like Nkunku playing in like a false nine type of position for PSG would be something that could very well benefit them. So the fact that there's saying that they're not interested in him, kind of hard for me to believe and just kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but whatever. I'm sure there's still other suitors. I've seen that Barcelona are interested, but obviously with their whole case with Dani Olmo and the fact that they're just completely broke, doesn't make any sense that he would go to Barcelona unless he just wants to go there and not get paid ever. I've heard the likes of maybe Bayern being a little interested in him. I've always seen Nkunku possibly moving either back to France or back to Germany. It seems like those two leagues would be leagues that would really suit him. I don't really see him making it here at the Premier League. I don't think it's Chelsea that's the problem, although we maybe have misprofiled him a bit. But I have heard of him maybe going to Arsenal. I could see him playing a kind of similar role to the one that Kai Havertz plays at Arsenal, but I just don't think Nkunku is going to make it in the Premier League. So if we're able to move him on this January transfer window, I would not be mad about that whatsoever. I was very excited when we brought him in. I do feel if he would have been healthy all of last season, playing that number 10 position, that Pochettino was kind of laying out the red carpet for him to play in, I do feel like he could have had a pretty good start to life here at Chelsea. But now, under Enzo Maresca's system, I just don't really see him fitting in anywhere. So if we can move him on, get some money for him, I would be more than happy for that. Next on the list, we have Jadon Sancho. Obviously, we have to keep him. He's currently on loan for Manchester United with an obligation to buy. We're gonna buy him for just the 25 million. He's been our starting left winger. Had that beautiful dummy turn and assist to Cole Palmer in our last match. I don't see Jadon Sancho going anywhere, so we're definitely gonna have to keep him. Next on the list, Cole Palmer, Mr. Chelsea himself. Cole Palmer, FC. He's not going anywhere. Then we have Tyreek George as a left wing option. I think, especially right now, with the whole Mudryk situation and the fact that it's going to be a little difficult to bring in a left winger in this January transfer window, it's probably going to be a good idea to keep Tyreek George at the club, whether it's to play in the Cups or even maybe seeing an odd appearance from him in the Premier League coming on late in games, possibly to close them out if we're already winning comfortably, I would imagine, would be an option. Like I was saying earlier, I would like to see Joao Felix more as a backup left wing option of Sancho, since we're very light in that left wing position currently. But if we could get Tyreek George out on a good domestic loan to another club, I don't think he's going to be ready for a Premier League loan, but maybe a championship loan. I do think that could benefit him, but I am not opposed whatsoever to keeping him at the club for the second half of the season. Same with Mark Gue. I don't want to see him as our backup striker to Nicholas Jackson. He's definitely a third choice striker at this moment. We can definitely use him in the Conference League and in cup matches, maybe even bringing him on late in games, but I don't think that's going to get us to where we want to be. If we want to be top four, if we want to be challenging for trophies, I don't think we can do that with Nico as our number one and Mark Gue as our number two. We have to bring in a more solidified, prolific striker that can finish his chances if we want to move up the table and have any chance at winning silverware this season. All right. So that is the entire squad as of right now. So very quickly, let's get into incoming transfers as of right now for this January transfer window that I believe could be beneficial. So as of right now, I do think we have a lot of players out on loan that could benefit us currently. Of course, you can't just look at this beautiful game as, things written down on pen and paper. You have to look at the personal side of things, the emotional side of things sometimes, because with our whole center back dilemma that's going around, for me, the first thing I thought of was why not just bring back Trevoh Chalobah? He seems to be a perfect fit for what we need right now. I would have loved to have seen him stay from the beginning. I really do like Trevoh Chalobah from day one. I've been an admirer of his. He has a great record playing for Chelsea. We have a great win percentage whenever he starts matches for us. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think he is very helpful. He can help get the odd goal every now and again, but also defensively, he's very solid. I don't think he has a lot of mistakes in him. He's not world class, he's not amazing, but he's a very solid defender that can help a team. And he loves Chelsea, or at least he loved Chelsea. I don't know if he still loves it now after the way we treated him over the summer, but he definitely loved Chelsea, and I don't think he would have minded sitting on the bench every now and then. So to bring him back now, I think would be the smartest option, so that we don't have to go and break the bank to bring in a new center back. But just because of the personal relationships that might be strained between Chalaba and the club, over the summer, we didn't give him a squad number. We didn't bring him on the USA tour for preseason, and we just completely isolated him from the squad. We weren't even letting him train with the senior squad. He was out there training with the development squad and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wouldn't be so happy to come back to Chelsea at this point. So then that brings us to his partner at Crystal Palace, Mark Gurhey. I really am an admirer of Mark Gurhey. I've mostly watched him play for England rather than for Crystal Palace, but I really do feel like he's a defender that can play in the left, the center, even in the right of a back three. Very good on the ball, very calm, composed, good passer, strong defender. I think someone like Mark Gurhey could be a good option for us. We do have that. I believe it's a what is it? Not a buyback clause. We have a sell-on clause for like 15 to 25%, somewhere in that range. It's a pretty large percentage that could very much help us get him on a good price. I don't know how that works financially when it comes to trying to buy him back. If that 20, 25%, whatever it is like a discount that gets added on to the purchase. Not sure how that works. Seems like Crystal Palace are going to be a little bit difficult to deal with. Maybe it smoothed things over a bit when we sent them Chalaba on loan this summer. But I remember last summer there was that whole issue when they were calling us out for trying to contact Michael Olise illegally before contacting them of our interest in him. And then that's when we completely backed out of the deal. And that's what stopped us from signing Michael Olise last summer, because it was very close at one point in time. And then, of course, this summer he ended up moving on to Bayern Munich, and he's tearing it up over there in the Bundesliga and in the Champions League as well. So I'm not a huge admirer of bringing back old Chelsea Academy players. I always find it a little bit silly unless we can get them back on a good price. Of course, I hate the whole Romelu Lukaku situation. He wasn't so much a academy player, but just bringing back ex-Chelsea players on huge fees, I'm not a big fan of that. But if we can get Mark Gurhey back for a reasonable fee, I do think he would be a very good fit to take over that right center back position while Wesley Fofana is out, and maybe even solidify that position once Wesley Fofana comes back fit, because Mark Gurhey is that good of a defender. Now, if we move on to the midfield positions, obviously we're very light in midfield. Enzo and Caicedo are working like dogs out there. They're probably missing Connor Galladog right now with how much they've had to be playing. And with Romeo Lavia making it impossible to stay fit, and we don't really have much cover for them in those midfield positions, I don't think we have to go out on the market to bring in a new, fresh midfielder on a permanent transfer. I've been seeing links of Chelsea supposedly being linked to Kobe Mainu from Manchester United. I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't want to give Manchester United any money. They're in a financial crisis. They're in a sporting crisis. They're just in a crisis. Their stadium's falling apart. Cristiano Ronaldo has bashed them, saying that everything on the training ground from the ground up was exactly the same when he came back as it was when he left. So the last thing I would want is to give Manchester United any money right now and bail them out of the situation that they've dug themselves into. So I really hope we don't sign Kobe Mainu or any Manchester United player for that matter. And I do feel we have a couple players out on loan, with the likes of Andre Santos killing it over at Strasbourg and Ugo Chukwu at Southampton, who has not been killing it, hasn't been getting as many minutes as anyone would like. But I do think he could be exactly the type of profile that we could use right now. We need a big, strong, body that could come in, similar to Renato Vega, but Renato Vega I feel like is more comfortable in a defending position, whether it's at left back or center back, than he is in a midfield position. Although he can play there, I think in the Premier League he might just not have the qualities that Ugo Chukwu does, who is a more natural midfielder. So Ugo Chukwu, I really do feel that it would be the smartest thing to bring him back from loan to add to our squad depth. He might not be starting any games in the Premier League, but he'll definitely be able to come in off the bench, close out games, and give Enzo or Moises Caicedo a breather. I feel like Ugo Chukwu is more of a replacement for Caicedo if he would be coming into the squad than Enzo, but giving either one of them a breather right now in the situation we're in would be a huge plus. Now, the Andre Santos one is a little bit trickier because Andre Santos is probably the biggest factor of Strasbourg not getting relegated to the second division in France this season. So, obviously, we don't want our network club in Strasbourg getting relegated. We would like to see them getting into some sort of European spots, but it looks like it's going to take at least a couple more years to get there. I mean, look at us. We should be the main priority over at Chelsea, and even we're struggling to get into European League spots. So we definitely have to give the priority to Chelsea. But is bringing Santos going to be the best move for his career? I don't know. I think maybe it would be best if we can bring back Ugo Chukwu. Hopefully Lavia can get fit again. And maybe leave Andre Santos on loan for the remainder of the season. And then we can bring him back in the summer and definitely keep him in the squad from the start of next season. So that leaves us with a couple questions still remaining. Left wing, do we have that covered? I think for right now, we should leave it how it is. I think with Jadon Sancho and Joao Felix and even Pedro Neto, who can occasionally play over at left wing, with Mudryk out on suspension, I think should be enough. And then maybe we can reopen that conversation next summer. In the center back role, I do think someone like Mark Gurhey would be a suitable replacement to bring in. For goalkeeper, similar to the left wing spot, I think it'd be the smartest thing to just kind of keep what we have for right now and then think about that conversation again in the summer. And then for the striker positions, we definitely have to bring in another striker. There's so many strikers on our transfer shortlist. I've heard there's up to like 10 names. I imagine those names are going to include the likes of Liam Delap from Ipswich Town, John Duran, Victor Gyökeres, Victor Osimhen. Let's see who else. Benjamin Sesko. There's going to be a ton of options out there. I don't think Samuel Moto Leon is going to be on there anymore. I'm sure that guy probably hates us right now, and he's been killing it over at Porto. But we definitely have a few options at striker that I think we will have to go in for. I don't think we can close out the rest of the season without bringing in a new striker and finishing in at least top four. So that's going to be something to look out for. I don't like to speculate too much on the transfer window because things literally change by the minute. By the time this video releases, there could have already been moves being made. So I don't like to go too much into the transfer market or the transfer news. I am making this video more to look at what I believe now in the beginning of the month would be a good transfer strategy for Chelsea to look into. But let's see what they ultimately decide. This video ran a little bit longer than I was hoping, but there was a lot to cover in this video. So I do appreciate everyone out there that is still listening at this moment. If you guys have not yet done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you liked what you heard in this video, or if you're excited for this January transfer window, please go ahead and hit a thumbs up, like this video, and leave a comment down below. Thank you for listening, guys, and stay tuned for the next video coming out shortly on the match preview of Chelsea's match this Saturday in the FA Cup third round against Morecambe. So, thanks a lot, guys. Till the next one. Peace.